Okay, hold on a minute. Let me get there we go. Welcome to Martini time. So we're going to see what the Kundalini brings up. You notice one thing: if the martini glass is small, the martinis are bigger. So anyway, let's talk about the Zen of Miss Marple. So we watch in the afternoons. I have to find my enlightenment where I can. The Zen masters say everyday mind is enlightenment. So you find it in your everyday mind. And enlightenment is not a state. It's just, aha, I see. It's a dynamic thing. It's always being born. It's always, aha, eureka, I see. That's light. And so enlightenment means having light. And light is seeing, having seeing. And so we just watched a new series. We're on Acorn, and we watched the British Mysteries. And so we just picked up a new series to watch, which was the Agatha Christy Miss Marple. Watched the first one. I was blown away. The intricate, in other words, how this Agatha Christy could hold your attention in a rather mundane, everyday setting. It was a hotel at the beach, and carefully weave this tense story about who did it among all these people, and the detectives, and everybody's looking for who did it. And Miss Marple, just got a little old sweet little lady, just kind of sits to the side and listens, and once in a while asks questions. But there's so much intelligence in her eyes, so much awareness, And finally, towards the end, she, having collected her little bits of information, connected her dots, the whole thing, she unloads the whole thing, full blown. And the detectives, of course, the inspectors and all that, they're just blown away. And they hate to see her coming because they know they're going to get blown away. Nobody likes to get blown away, you see. But anyway, it's just a fascinating, her stories. Agatha, I don't know how many she wrote. God knows she wrote a lot of them. She just cranked them out like hamburger. But her character reminds me of Yoda. That little light, her eyes just light up with this intelligence, her curiosity, her joy of discovery, her interest, her compassion, her knowledge of human nature. It all goes into this rather mundane little everyday figure, this little old lady, you see. And so she is kind of like a metaphor for the insight intelligence. Insight intelligence in Zen is our source. In quantum physics in Zen, not just Zen, but in all the different non-dual traditions, the source of life is insight intelligence or consciousness, not matter like we in the West think. Everything is just stuff things, you see, all determined by cause and effects, just things. This completely eliminates intelligence, wipes it out. Intelligence, conscious intelligence, is the ghost in this machine we've invented. We make a lot of stuff, but we don't know why, and there's nobody home. There's nobody home, you see. So we're all invested in our products, and there's nobody there. But insight intelligence is that awakened source of our being, you see. So when that is awakened, your life changes. It's like getting wind in the sails. It's like falling in love. Something is moving or getting pregnant. Something is moving. Life is moving. We surrender to it. We surrender to this movement. When you fall in love, you surrender to the movement of love. When you get pregnant, you surrender to the movement of pregnant, you see. There's this surrender to life, you see. And that's what insight intelligence is. There's a surrender to insight intelligence, which is our source. But insight intelligence is not the intellect. And it's not the conscious mind. It includes the conscious mind. It's the source of the conscious mind. So Agatha Christy, her Miss Marple character, she has a lot of different characters, but Miss Marple and others are kind of like a metaphor for the awakened insight intelligence. She has insight. She connects dots. So there's an integrating function here, you see. There's something about insight intelligence that integrates disconnected dots. You see, it's always unifying. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Good thing I could tell it was coming. It's a good thing I didn't have the martini in my hand. So, insight intelligence cannot be willed. You can't make yourself intelligent. You can't make yourself have insight. There's no method. There's no plan. There's no manual. You can't go to school, you see. So there's something else involved here to awaken insight, intelligence. And that is a surrender to it, in the same way that we surrender to love or pregnancy, those two. Other things, people surrender to war. People surrender to a sport, an activity. There's lots of different things we surrender to. But the ones most where you really feel the movement that everybody can identify with is falling in love and getting pregnant. These two are biological or forces of life forces that we can surrender to. And we want to be carried away by love. We want to be carried away by pregnancy, by giving birth, you see. So there's a certain desire to surrender. There's a certain need to surrender to the life, to something greater than us, you see. That's why men love war in the beginning, because they surrender to it. It's their duty. There's national protection. The warrior, to save society, you see. Surrender to that, and they go gleefully off to war, and then it turns bad. So there's all kinds of there's surrender to violence, surrender to anger, surrender to your crime, a compulsion. So surrender becomes when it is a samskara, that is a habit that we surrender to, like porn or like cigarettes or drugs or whatever. We surrender to that. But that is not insight intelligence. That's a tape loop, a ritual. That we surrender to a ritual that turns us into a tape loop of self-feeding and destruction, you see. But there's a sense of surrender to it. The idea comes up and you just give in to it. Can't fight it anymore. Give me the cigarette. So there's that element of surrender in that, you see. But insight intelligence is a different kind of surrender. So anyway, Ms. Marple is kind of like a metaphor, a living metaphor for that awakened mind that doesn't rest on any form. In Zen, that's called prajna. And it's the aroused mind that doesn't rest on any form. In Jesus' teaching, that's the Son of Man. When he says there's no place for the Son of Man to rest his head. There's no place, no form, no idea, no belief, no church, no religion, no politics for the Son of Man to rest his head. And no conclusion, no premature judgment to rest your head, no belief. Nothing to rest your head. So there's a suspension of judgment in awakening insight intelligence that Mrs. Marple symbolizes. In the British mysteries, all of the inspectors and the detectives and the sleuths suspend judgment. They don't leap to shoot. They don't leap to, all the inferiors do. They all know who did it, but the inspector or the detective says, wait a minute, what about this? What about the fingernails? What about these clues? You see, don't exclude anything. Don't exclude anything. Be inclusive. There is no coincidence. Be inclusive. Check everything out, you see. So this is this inclusiveness that's included in the awakening of insight intelligence. It's always seeking unity. Inclusive means greater unity. You come across a little dot or a clue, you include it. And you change your assumptions. You change your perspective according to the new clues, you see. Now excuse me, I'm sorry about this, but something about it's either blow my nose or run. So you see what we're looking at here is this the awakening of insight intelligence. We're looking at the qualities of it. We're looking at inclusiveness. So it never creates a border. It never creates a division. It's always including. And that's what we call love, isn't it? Unconditional love means no boundaries. You don't create any divisions. So in the detective metaphor that we're looking at then, the detective does not exclude anything. Everything in the situation, which would be the crime, everything in the whole situation he encounters is included as a possibility. It can be excluded, but we're speaking more generally here. So there's this inclusiveness. Now the exclusive would be the premature judgment. Oh, that's it. Boom, I know who did it. He did it. And all these other clues, forget about it. I got my man. I can close this case. Put up a mark, you see. So I can close the case and get on. This is always the pressure on the inspector from his boss. That's the format. They close the case, get it off the books, get it out of the newspapers. But anyway, so we're looking at the awakened mind that doesn't rest on any form or idea. I mean, so a form is a mental form or physical form. So it doesn't rest and clutch it and say, I've got it, you see. It's always inclusive, always inclusive. And so it doesn't make a judgment until the whole picture arrives full blown. And that's important. The insight intelligence knows something only when the whole picture arrives full blown. All of the dots connected. It's like when you do a picture and you're connecting the dots. What is it? A donkey, a duck? I don't know what it is. Then you keep connecting dots until finally, oh, it's a duck. We like that, you see. So this whole idea of the whole coming in full blown is insight intelligence. Because insight intelligence is in love with the whole. You see, insight intelligence is in love with the one, or the unity, that includes all of the parts. And so it won't quit until it gets the whole. It won't quit until everything has been incorporated. Everything has been included. Everything, all the clues, you see. And now again, we're speaking metaphorically here as the mystery that we love and actually our own insight intelligence. So we're kind of like looking at our own insight intelligence through the lens or filter of the mystery. And the Sherlock, who does not prejudge. He holds his judgment in his holster. He doesn't draw his gun. So he's not premature. He doesn't shoot before he gets to where he wants to go. So he says, no premature judgment. So this whole idea of holding your judgment, you see, waiting. I remember a story from a friend of mine years ago who was a gunner on a ship in World War II, and there was a battleship or an aircraft carrier, I don't know, but they had the guns all along the side of the ship, and the Japanese torpedo planes were coming, and the gunnery officer saying, hold your fire, don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes. Don't waste your ammunition. And he said somebody would always go, and then everybody would shoot. So it takes, this is also the symbol of masculinity, the white hunter in Africa who stands with his gun when the tigers or the lions charging him, and he waits till the last minute to shoot him, that calm in the face of the charge, always the for the symbol of the British warrior who stands and has tea while the barbarians are charging, that kind of indifference to death, Anyway, I wander. So, we've been looking at Miss Marple as a metaphor, extended metaphor, for awakened insight intelligence, which is the goal of the non-dual traditions of Zen and Buddhism and the mystical teachings of Jesus and Vedanta and all of the non-dual traditions, because insight intelligence is non-dual. It doesn't divide. You see, it doesn't create boundaries and exclude that and have this and not that, you see. It's open in it, so it just keeps the awareness is receptive. There's a surrender to the receptivity. There's a surrender to the passivity. There's a surrender to awareness is a surrender to just seeing instead of doing, you see. So it's really putting the female principle in front of the male. So if you look at the two principles, male and female, the principle of the female, the force or principle in nature, is receptivity, surrender, passive. And the male principle is always active, aggressive. So you get these yin and the yang here, and they dance together. That's the way life works. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, they dance together, active and passive. You can't have one without the other. You see, if you have one, you have to have the other. Just like up and down, in and out, hot and cold, passive and aggressive, they dance together. You can't separate them. You can't have all passive, all night, all down, all hot, all pain, all pleasure, without the other. They go together. And that's the way life works. But the mind wants to separate them. The mind wants to see things conditionally, put a boundary, all pleasure, no pain. So that's where the premature judgment comes in. So the judgment comes in to separate the two, so you can just have the good one. Get rid of the bad, you see. But anyway, so there's this surrender to the passive principle, to the receptive, to the openness, you see. So first and this is the Tao. First you lead with the female, follow with the male. In our culture, it's lead with the male, follow with the female. In our culture, you act first, and then you come in and look around and see what damage you did, how you can clean it up. Oh, I'm sorry. The female principle comes in after the male acts and screws everything up because he doesn't know what he's doing. So if you switch them and you lead with the female, then you are open and aware, and you surrender to the awareness of what's going on. You don't know what's going on. You don't know, so you're looking, you're curious, you're collecting. You're a gatherer. You're collecting clues. You're the shopper. You're collecting things and put them in your basket. And then when you get the whole picture, aha, I see the whole, then you act. Then the male principle comes in. Then you shoot. Then you shoot. But first you know. You see? But our culture gets it the other way around. Shoot first, ask questions next. Thanks for dropping in.